Yes. We need a new PA system. First order of business is approval of the October minutes to our zero. Made the motion. And Rick seconds. All in favor?
I oppose. It's actually supposed to be the November.
Oops. Yeah, I just read the script. Yeah, these should be the November minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the November minutes? Jen did, and a second? And Rick second, and all in favor of November minutes? Unanimous. Well, it's just the speaker. All right, so the next order of business is the EVO summary. The board approved some more groundwork and erosion control. I guess that was the out front of the yacht club here. You may have noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So the first one is a tennis court groundwork and erosion control. We also approved some roof work on the yacht club here and waterproofing the front area here. We found a French drain that had been covered up. But we re-waterproofed the below grade concrete wall that's part of the lower floor. We also approved some. The tennis committee wanted to do some repairs on the tennis courts themselves with their own money, so we were happy to approve that. And now, the next order of business is Yacht Club Financials. Kyra Hessler will come and tell us all about the money.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I'm a yellow talker, so it's quiet, project. All right. So November was a good month for us. We did a total of $48,302 in banquet revenue. We forecasted ourselves to do $44,483. So we came in over budget for our forecast by $3,819. Yay. Our most goods was 18% versus a budget of 35%. The reason for that low percentage is we are very fortunate that we've got some crafty people on this team. Our chef is back there. We are working through the product we have on hand. We had quite a bit of product from the bars. We had some things that were on hand that are still high quality that we could use for banquets. So we're ordering absolutely only what is necessary so it keeps those cost of goods low. Our expenses came in under forecast by about $7,000. Again, as with food and beverage, we are working with supplies that we have on hand that we don't need to necessarily order any extra. So paper goods, random, things that we use for banquet execution that we can work through and we don't need to order because we don't have excess on hand. That and the building is being used less. So the great thing about that is we're turning the lights off when we leave, we're turning the heat off when we leave, so our utilities were also diminished as a factor of that. So what this all wraps up to be is a great net income of $5,350 for November, when we were forecasted to lose about $4,000. So we're pretty proud of that. Our labor came in under budget as well. Chris, I got to hand it to my right here. He is, the operations guy. He's the guy you see running around. I could not do it without him. He leads this team brilliantly, and that's one of the main reasons why these numbers that we're reporting for November are as solid as they are. So thank you, Chris. We are winding down. So the next few weeks for us, or a couple weeks for us now, doing a lot of cleaning and organizing, transferring things over and communications with the board. And our last day here is December 31st. So I just wanted to thank everybody and tell you it has been an absolute pleasure, and I would not have traded this experience for the world. My team and I miss you. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is me with the President's Overview. One thing I wanted to do today is, this is the annual budget meeting, and I wanted to recognize Andrea Pixley. She has absolutely knocked it out of the park. She spent so many hours putting this budget together and consulting with the rest of the board and making sure everyone's knows what's going on in the budget and is comfortable with it. So I just wanted to recognize Andrea for all the work that she's done. And the rest of the board's working their butts off too, I promise. So I just want to go over a couple of things in my update. The future of the yacht club is always kind of front and center, especially since we're sitting in the building. I can say that we're making progress. It's going a lot slower than we'd like, and I know it's going a lot slower than you'd like, but we're not going to rush into anything. We're going to make a good decision, and that sometimes just takes time. Interestingly, the event companies that we've been in touch with have shown no interest in using this event space, which is kind of odd to me, and I think all of us kind of think, well, that's where we have done the best, is doing events, but for whatever reason, we aren't getting a lot of interest from event companies themselves. So, that may be something that doesn't work out here. We don't know. We're still pursuing it, but that's an interesting development. We've had some follow-up meetings with commercial real estate folks that are in the restaurant and entertainment space. There's still interest there for sure. We're putting together a marketing package with them, and there's evidently a big event, conference sort of thing at the convention center in downtown Dallas for this industry in late January. And so we'll have our marketing package put together for that show with the commercial real estate rep that we're working with. And hopefully we'll get a lot of leads there. They'll also be marketing it to their client list, et cetera. So hopefully we'll be bringing in people that are potential tenants to look at the building in January. Oh, and also, I know this has come up in the community, and it's something that we're committed to doing. When do we get to use the yacht club, right? Why can't we have a party or use one of the rooms or have a yoga class or whatever? And I promise you that's something we're going to be doing in the new year. The board is definitely looking at how do we manage that without having a building manager here. Right now the Kemper folks are managing the building, so we don't have to really do much. So we're looking at room rental rates that are reasonable, that are affordable for residents, that can, if you want to do a party, make sure that it gets cleaned up afterwards, etc. So we're working on that plan, and I assure you that the yacht club building will be available for use to residents in the new year. One thing we won't do is try to operate a business. We are not business operators here. The most that we can, and that has come through loud and clear from meetings like this, as well as in internal board discussions. We're not going to try to operate a business. We've learned that lesson, finally. But we'll try to make the building available for use. We mentioned the cell phone tower. We want to get cell phone coverage in the neighborhood. Obviously, everyone knows how poor that coverage is right now. We are working with Jacobs Engineering and AT&T we're kind of moving that along. The other things that we've done, we've been in touch with local experts. We actually have a resident who has been in that industry for 50 years. So we've had some meetings with him and talked through, the different options that we might have, from a DIY, do the construction ourselves and then get operators to, put their equipment on the tower, to a cell phone tower company that would then go find those people to put their equipment on the tower for service, and some consulting firms that just work within the industry to guide landowners as to how best to take advantage of the land and leasing it and getting a cell tower on their land, etc. And from all of that research, the best option looks like, and it's not something we've decided yet, but the best option right now looks like doing a turnkey solution with Jacobs and AT&T is going to be the best for us. Just because we won't have to do any of the management. All we'll do is get 5G cell coverage and a couple of grand a month, which works for me. So that looks like the best solution right now, but again, we're looking at all of our options. The discussions with Jacobs and AT&T will start getting a lot more serious and involved in the details in January. I will also, and I know Stephanie's here, I will also say that we are probably days away from having a settlement agreement with Spyglass on the lawsuits with their withdrawal from CLCA. The outline of that is we're going to allow the withdrawal. No one's going to pay anybody's lawyer fees. We'll refund some of the assessments that we collected from Spyglass. And the dates and things are still kind of in negotiation, but right now it's details. So I expect, and I don't know, I think Stephanie probably agrees that we'll probably have something to sign here in the next few days. So hopefully a little Christmas present for both homeowners associations. That is all I have. I'm going to hand it over to Seth. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, man. Seth Cullen, our treasurer, with the treasurer's report.
So our operating cash balance was about $184,000 for the November financials. We still have our loan balance at $1.6 million. Spyglass, some of that capital is around $50,000, which we may have to give back to them, and then it looks like we all have $45,000 in reserve for the coming end of the month. Basically, we have a challenge on our hands coming up as we get through this end of the year with finalizing the timber and everything else. But as we go into the next year, we'll get to that a little bit about the budget. But I think overall we have a good plan. And good board up here who's been looking at every aspect of a lot of these areas. And there's probably a lot of missing still that are going to pop up that we're going to be have a plan for next year. So, thank you.
And now, Jennifer Cherry, our Vice President, with our maintenance report.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, just a few things. They've really been really busy with going around Yacht Club and cutting down a lot of the trees. What did I say, cutting down the trees? That doesn't sound right. Going around Yacht Club and inspecting the 12-foot rule. So why the 12-foot rule is important on the main circle and every street in this neighborhood is to allow the ambulance to get through and the fire trucks to get through without scraping their vehicles on our trees. So when we're asking you or reaching out to the homeowner, if the tree's on your yard, we're asking you to cut up to 12 foot so that the big fire trucks can go through. So he's been doing that all around Yacht Club. And going down each street too, because there's some islands on some of the other streets where there's trees that are part of the CLCA that we had to clean up as well. So they've been doing that for weeks on end. We had to do two 30-foot roll-offs just full of trees to be taken away. Some of it we give away if it's good wood. We put it online and tell people they can pick it up. So we're trying to use the resources we can. So if we can get rid of it without having to pay for it to be rolled off, that would be best. Let's see what else. We are using a vendor to cut down a few trees. It's a safety issue. One's in the backyard of a house in Valiant that backs up to the park, and the tree, part of it broke off and died, but it's extremely tall and it's just not safe for our staff to cut it down, so we do have to get a vendor who is qualified to cut down those trees. And then you're going to also notice at the top of the Yacht Club there's one that's leaning pretty hard and it's slowly dying, and so he's going to also remove that as well. We had a small leak by the small pool. It was our water line that goes to the pool and the bathrooms. Chuck and his team took care of that, so again, saved us a lot of money, fixed the pipe, and covered it back up. That's pretty much it. They just really have been focusing on the trees because he had to go around and analyze everyone's trees, and then they had to start cutting them down. So they've been pretty busy with that.
Okay, next up, security, Ms. Langer, secretary.
Good morning, everyone. I have Mike, who's over our security. He's the chief.
Branch manager.
Branch manager over our security to address some of the concerns that you all have posted on Town Square. Mike, do you mind coming up and kind of giving us a synopsis of kind of what took place over this last month and just what kind of procedures and policies we have?
Are you talking about the vehicles?
Yes.
Yes.
The 2 accidents.
Yes. Obviously, that was a bad day for us, as it was for you guys. And honestly, that was the first race we've had all year in any vehicle. And out here at Chandler, it was a kind of unique situation because all of our HOAs, we furnish a vehicle, so they're underneath our insurance, they're underneath our care. And with this one, y'all furnish the vehicles, so that insurance part to get out of this. Our company came out and removed the tree. We're waiting to find out what color of tree we need to replace it with. That's the only thing we have left. I'll be picking up one of y'all's vehicles for sure today and bring it back. We're paying for all the costs on the vehicles because of damage to the vehicles. That's nothing that y'all are paying for. Both incidents were distracted drivers. One guy fell asleep. He's a single dad taking care of a 3-year-old son. And we told him there's no excuses for that. When you're tired, you don't come to work. You know, there's a liability for you, even if you're running access control. Then with Noah, he was paying attention to somebody else driving and get told. He had a little bit of injuries, so we sent him to care now to have him checked out. He returned back to work and he's better now. But we all learned something from it. We probably need to dive a little bit deeper into our drive program for the officers that are out here. That way, if they do get fault details insurance, that we'll have that back as well. But as far as our responsibilities out here, we run the access control of your main gate. We drive and look for code violations. We observe and report those to the board and keep your community safe and as best as we can.
Can you address the procedures that took place when accidents like that happen? About testing?
Okay, yeah. I think I can do that. Anytime we have a vehicle accident, if it's involves an injury, we send them to Care Now. We have a contract with Care Now that they take care of all that stuff for us. If it's no injury, then we come here and get a drug screen immediately with our operations manager and get that on file, and then follow the documentation. And, we get it documented up and talk to them, and everything is going the way it needs to be done. Again, it's a unique thing because usually we have all that on our officers that drive our vehicles. But we'll address that and get that fixed on our end as well.
Is there any questions? There were a lot of questions going around on Town Square, so I just, okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, and if any of y'all ever need to reach out to me, I mean, you can get my email address, phone number from her, and I don't have any issues with you.
Sir?
Yeah, one thing that I heard, I noticed sometimes, is coming into the main gate, both gates will open at the same time. 2 cars can go through, and the car on the right might be going left, the resident on the right. We can't have that.
So maybe a little bit more tension as far as the gates open at the same time, and one and the other open. Yeah, we definitely can talk to the team about that.
You can't control the resident, but they can control the visitors.
Okay.
So maybe wait on the visitors.
Yes,
While
the one that we
visitors-
can't control, they'll have to wait. Yeah, we can definitely implement that for sure.
If I could just add in on that, particularly Route 33 Harbor Landing, when the new gates were put in, the codes, the federal codes on automatic gates changed. Part of it is a training issue, Mike, in that the switch to manually open the visitor's gate has to be repositioned to get the gate to go down after the vehicle goes through. So many times when we come in on the resident side, the gate on the visitor side is still up, and it's just simply a product of getting the switch so the gate goes back. It's a training issue.
Yeah, okay. So they have to hit the switch to bring it
I
back.
believe so.
All right.
Either that or the sensors are bad and they don't go back out.
Well, that's something we can look into, for sure. I'll get with, Noah Monday.
Yeah, that's something to talk to, Sharpie's door team.
All right.
Okay, committee events, Lisa?
Sure. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Yes.
As far as committee events right now, until the budget was approved, we haven't got together with our events or kids crew to plan anything. We have to make sure the budget is approved first. But they are definitely in the budget. And we do know that because this is it doesn't cost any money. Joe Lang is putting on the Taste of Chandlers again. This totally funds your fireworks for the year, and that will be on April the 6th. It's on a Saturday, and here down at the club. And we hope everyone comes out and supports it because, again, 100%, if we don't raise it this way, there will not be fireworks. So we appreciate your support. And I'd like to toss it to Julie right now about the 50th anniversary because Julie's on the planning committee for the 50th. And it takes place around February 6th, which actually falls on a Tuesday, but I think Julie might have some other plans for that.
Well, I'm getting together with Cindy Mallett and Betty Hoban, and we're gonna start figuring out some quick fundraisers so we can get some more money in our little budget. And probably working with the fireworks committee together so that we all come together and raise the money together and hope the community gets involved.
And you need volunteers.
Oh, we need lots of volunteers.
Volunteer, please, volunteer. And now, roundtable report from Rick Morrison.
It was. Okay, we had our last one for the year Tuesday night, the 12th. We had participation of 14 residents. I think we kind of went into what the events committee pretty much goes over a lot, but we had good participation. I like it that most of the people I see in here have attended the roundtables, and going forward, we'd like all the participation we can get. It brings the community together, I believe, and anyway, we talked mostly about the upcoming 50th anniversary. I mean, there's varying opinions on what we're going to do. I guess Lisa and Julie are working on that big time. So as a community, if there's some way we can put that together, it seems like everybody's kind of in agreement on that. And as we move closer to that date, we'll I guess be having a conversation over what the community decision is. And anyway, that's all I have for the roundtables. Roundtables will crank up next month. Based on we had 14. If everyone feels like it's something that's a good thing for the community, I'll definitely continue to have them. I like the Tuesday night venue. Anyway,
Every 2 weeks.
just let me know.
Every 2 weeks.
So we should have a couple of those roundtables a month going forward. The next thing on the agenda is spyglass update, but I think I've already done that, so we'll skip that. We don't have any old business and new business. We want to present the 2024 budget, and for that, I'll hand that over to our treasurer again, and we'll talk to you about the budget.
All right, so for the budget, this has been posted on Town Square for those who also like to look at it there. So we have, with the increase in dues and some of the revenue that we believe we can get for the year, increase the budget to $2.4 million versus $2.2 from 2023 for our revenue. We have lots of expenses. I don't know if we're going to get into all just the details of all the expenses, but some of the major ones that we have highlighted here in red are some of the major expenses that have to get done this year. And, the other things that, add to the bottom of about $260,000 worth of repairs and stuff for the year that we know of that needs to be completed right now. However, with the increase, we also plan on putting about $210,000 into our reserves. With the 45 that we have currently, that will put us about a little over 250 in reserve by the end of next year, with making these repairs that we know of currently, and if they come in, within budget, hopefully they come in under budget. But anyways, you can see here, we have a pretty good plan to hopefully put some reserves back into the community next year. 210,000 plus. All right.
Morning, folks. I'd like to make a couple comments. Is this working?
You have to put it closer.
You have to put it close.
Since I did most of the.
It's not on, it's not working.
There it is.
I wanted to make just a few more comments regarding some of the detail of the budget here. The revenue is not including spyglass dues, since we're so close to the settlement at, I don't want to say the 11th hour, but I felt like the 11th hour meeting. I did adjust that, and those assessments, when you look at last year, you might be confused as to why a 10% increase and you're not seeing a full 10% increase over last year. Part of that is due to the spyglass dues being removed, and then the 10% only being increased for the lots that will have left, so that we're currently expecting. Just as far as philosophy of how I created this budget, although I was looking at every line item for where could we save, I felt, and the board also felt when I presented the first couple drafts, that rather than apply those cost savings now, if nothing changed, what would I expect? We certainly are going to work our hardest to look at contracts that I've identified that are coming up, or other savings or month-to-month contracts that we can either eliminate to reduce the costs that we have here. So this is not a bare bones budget. It's what is realistic if we absolutely do nothing and keep everything status quo. I tend to be conservative in my budgeting, and that's why I decided to go with that. But certainly, anybody that knows me a little bit knows that I'm very frugal, and I will be watching these costs very closely. And wherever we can cut, we will. We've got a couple of the gals over in the front office bringing in office contracts for example, copiers and postage meters and things of that nature. We've got maintenance looking at the outside services contracts that we have, and other monthly services that I feel could be possibly either reduced or eliminated to help us bolster either the expenses and the repairs that we can do this year, or put money into the reserves at the end of the year. Regarding the large expenses that you see in red and that are recapped on the last page, the last page recaps it just major repairs. However, those line items are within the budget itself. So this is not necessarily quotes or bids that we've actually received. It's what I feel and the board has agreed and approved. We should be spending some money on different areas within our community. We're not exactly sure which, for example, drainage or retaining walls, things of that nature, which ones are the most needed right now. But we will certainly be looking at things as a priority, things that may jeopardize person or property, or, for example, drainage issues that may further down the road be an issue and cause further damage to something else. So those will be our priorities here. I'm more than happy to, in the next two roundtables, and possibly even some during the afternoons. Be happy to bring my Excel spreadsheet down if anyone cares to drill down into some of these line items. I don't really want to have people calling me on a one-off basis, but I will be available for explaining some of the detail of this, and we can drill down if you'd like. That certainly will be posted. I'm thinking the first one in January for sure. If we need another one later, I'm willing to do that also. I'm also willing to provide this to anybody in an Excel spreadsheet if you want to do percentages and what have you. But to be honest, I cannot really comment as to why some of the 23 budgets, how they got worked up, because I didn't do it. I did try to glean from that what I could.
Yeah, and just on another note, we went off of the actuals as well from the 2023. You know, we looked at the actuals that we had to spend up through as much as we could through the current months. And so that also helped drive what we were digging down into the budget to make sure those line items make sense and they're to be what we needed for the future.
It's good.
And how many people are employed by him?
8. 5 in maintenance and 3 in the office.
Are you gonna take budget questions now, Andrew, or later?
Let's push this. We still have a couple of agenda items, I believe, yeah. So we're just about to get to the Q&A, but we have a couple more agenda items. Oh, yeah, we do need to do that. So, yeah, I mean, is there any board discussion about the budget? I mean, we've already had about 1,000 little meetings and emails and whatever else about this, so do we want to do that? Okay. No? All right, yeah, sure, why not? So the idea is, or suggested that we do open up the forum for budget questions before we pass the budget. So that's fine with me. So let's do that. Let's open up the floor. If there are any budget questions, we're happy to answer them. Or Andre said.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things in here for doing this, and from experience, it's a really nice task. So my first question is on license plate security. So built a loose block cameras. Am I interpret that you're going to remove them or reduce them? The number one town from.
Let me tell you a little bit that I learned about the clock security system. We have not paid for the last 2 years completely. We still owe about $17,000 on that. Apparently, I didn't know that we had this. It came to my attention about late summer. The invoices were not being actually forwarded to the proper email address, and they actually called the office. So this is when I found out about the clock system, notified the rest of the board members, and we're currently in a review of whether or not we will be keeping that. But it is a cost of $14,400 annually, and it's a leased program. So in answer to your question, I did not put it in the budget here since it's not something that we're sure we're going to keep at this point. I personally have a neighbor who's a high-ranking law enforcement officer, and when I discussed it with him, his opinion, being a homeowner here, said, for the money, and he's well aware of what this what the benefits are. He said, for the money, he believes it is not worth the association's money at this time. Because of what it actually is.
Is he a city of Rock Hall police officer?
No, he's not.
Okay, you might want to go, I would encourage you to go meet with the Rock Hall Police Department on it.
Well, he did qualify and that he would come and assess, find out what we're getting for that amount of money, and he would amend his opinion since he really had no information. So he's willing to talk to the board, gather some information for us. He needs to meet with Noah to do that. But at this point in time, I don't have enough information, nor did I at this point to put it in the budget. So it's not in, but in order to have it, in my opinion, we're gonna have to cut costs and make
I've offered to give the board a demonstration of it. I'm all familiar with it.
Okay.
I've also passed on to certain board members, at least that I'm aware of, some fairly significant crimes in the neighborhood that were prevented or the individuals were apprehended as a result of the cameras. And so these are state-of-the-art. They're used in a lot of communities, not Dallas uses them, Rockwell uses them, Rockwell has access to the cameras. They're pretty robust. And so I would just encourage you before not taking away from your neighbor, don't know who he is or whatever, but I would encourage you to make your decisions based on interaction with the Rockwell Police Department. So, thank you.
Let me, I'm sorry, Nick, let me interrupt. So just with the flock cameras, what they do is they read your license plate. They, as anyone that comes through our gates, and we can tell if you've had a felony, a warrant, sex offender, whatever it may be. The police department does get alerted when this does happen, and so they can come in here. So say a vehicle is stolen, the police department does gets alerted, and they come in and look for that vehicle. So there is some benefits to this. It's great benefits. I've even spoken to our own security guard, our manager, and he states that though it does help the police department quite a bit, and it does prevent, let's say, the stolen vehicle coming in, as a benefit to us, I don't know if 14,000 really is a benefit we're seeing total. So when we say we're looking at this, we're looking at all different aspects. But he said that if we had new cameras that would see the license plate better, that he would see more benefit in that and getting new cameras, our personal own cameras, than having the flock cameras. So it does benefit the police department, and they can come in and prevent or help on a few occasions. But so we need to weigh the pros and cons. We're not just looking at it from one side of a neighbor, we're looking at it from our security manager and the situations behind it. So it's still kind of up in the air what we're really going to do about these flock cameras. And the other thing is, this flock camera, this company hasn't had a rep come out and see us in over a year, and that's again why we weren't even alerted about a bill. So this is kind of we're still kind of having issues with this company. So there's some things we have to work through on our end to really find out the pros and cons of it.
And we also run a contract through April, so that it's something that has to be jumped on today, but it is something we are working on. But we run a contract through April, but every state does.
And I do have the cost of the unpaid balance in my cash flow. So although it's not on the budget here, it is something that I'm accounting for, along with some of the Kemper stuff that hasn't been paid yet also.
Sure.
Okay, then also I have a question on engineering services. So you assuming that you've made other arrangements for the contract?
Actually, John Lewis gave us his final notification as of, and he terminated himself basically at the end of November. So I've got a little bit of money there for civil engineering, not knowing what we would need in the future.
Well, the big thing is the thing that that he really has been helped with is the making sure that the new construction homes, particularly in Carter Landing Phase 2, which are highly restricted in many ways, to make sure that those are inspected by us and meet the as the construction is going on and meeting the requirements for those of us that are guaranteed use of building.
Okay.
So,
Well, he did offer his services on a PO basis, so we do have that option, since he's already familiar with the project.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
We're new to the process. I've got a couple of questions.
What's your name?
Dennis Pence.
And where do you live?
We live at 314 Portview Place.
Okay.
I'll make one little side note, on the security sweeps that they do when they're driving around, they're in a hurry to get back. I've almost been hit by one backing out of my driveway. So that needs to be addressed with those guys. But my big concern is, do you review this budget during the year? Is there quarterly budget reviews against performance?
Well, you have a new board here, so I can't speak to the prior boards, but my plan will be, unless Seth and this, our plan will be to review it monthly, I will, and then probably the two of us quarterly, and then we will advise the board.
Well, I'm talking
Where we're
about,
at.
basically for this time, you have an annual budget review. So by the end of the year, we can see what we did for the previous year, but I'm used to reviewing a budget, at least on a quarterly basis, in a meeting like this. And I'd like to see a third column on here if possible, so we can show budget variances. So,
Well,
That's all the P and L.
actually, the monthly financials that are posted by our accounting group and put on Town Square has a variance.
okay,
Okay.
It has more breakdown, balance sheet, and everything else.
okay,
Do you have access to
And
Town
I-
Square?
yes.
Okay.
And I'm willing to increase the number and format of statements.
And we've talked about that as well, to be able to analyze it better, like I'll put the, not just the budget, but the actual with this, to see their truth.
I'm used to seeing a budget variance. Some people do it at 3 months, some at 6 months. When I was in business, we did it every quarter.
But yeah, so
I think that's
I was
reasonable.
on board in September, so, a lot of that's just kind of on the horizon.
That was only 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I've had some challenges with the way things were coded in the GL, which made it took a lot longer than I would have expected, to really suss out items that were not in the right place. So I really did a deep dive into the GL just because I wasn't, being here only 6 months, I wasn't sure how things were being coded necessarily, and I do have a plan to make things hard-coded in the system or by vendor, so we can see that consistency that I'm looking for.
Any other questions?
Budget question?
Thank you for taking it easy on me today.
I've got one. Hey, I've got one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is for Andrea. Approximately how much do we have in the reserve fund right now?
45,000.
Oh, okay.
It's not moved since June.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Because it's clear to some of us, maybe not to others, some of the expenses previously that would have been in charge to the yacht club, you moved them over into like liquor liability, things like that, look to appear in this budget versus previously would have been in the LLC budget.
I'm not sure if I heard all that, but
Well, like,
some of the TLC expenses you said looks like they've been moved, and you're right.
yes,
Specifically, management fees.
liquor liability, general liability that we moved out.
Those are still in here, actually.
No, that's what I'm saying, they're in the 2024 budget, but they don't show up on the 2023 budget. I'm trying to help you out here to say yes.
I don't think she heard you.
Actually, Chip, if you look at, for some reason, all of the insurances for 23 were reported about the middle of the first page, where it says general liability, property and deal. It was 90,000 last year, and that included the TLC.
But you broke the TLC out
Yes.
into a separate,
Oh, yes, I did.
yes.
That's what he was stating.
I'm
That's all he was
sorry.
stating.
That's a part of this. I'm sorry. Reason being, my personal opinion is that we eventually get away from the liquor license and liquor liability because it's costly. And if we're not going to be doing events and having liquor sales ourselves, we shouldn't have to be paying. But that is down the road, that kind of a decision. So I did include it here and didn't assume that we would be getting rid of that.
A couple of months ago, we were told we were broke as an association. We didn't have a lot of money. So how broke are we now?
We need to be very careful with how we spend our money, obviously. But, the fact that we closed the club down, I've got some numbers here for you. The bleeding has stopped, that's good. And that's why you're seeing money that we can spend on large expenses. That with the dues increases that we've taken in the last couple of years, and the dues increase coming up, you can see that we've got nearly $500,000 or close to that we can spend on our infrastructure. So, are we broke? No. Do we absolutely have to watch what we do? Yes. We still need to do that. We've got, as Seth, I don't know if you've heard, I was having a hard time hearing, and I'm sitting next to him, $184,000 in operating cash. However, that cash is earmarked for things like legal fees, and haven't been paid yet. This is at the end of November. So I've got legal fees in there, the flock system, the POS system, the NCR system that runs the sales for TYC. Kemper has a balance open that they will be transferring back to us in about $17.5. We've got accounts, accrued accounts payable that we're, as you may or may not remember, we were on cash basis of counting, and now we're switching over to accrual. One of the reasons why we didn't present a November balance sheet and income statement today was because a lot of those journal entries were done in November, and I didn't have a chance. They just got me the statements late Thursday. I didn't have a chance to look over that. Some of the numbers looked a little funny to me, so I want to go back and make sure they made them, rather than this year, should they have been last year, because they were CPA adjustments also. So I need a little bit of time to look at that. There's other things that are not on this budget that we are going to have to pay. So the 184, when I take all this down, we're down to 34,000. So just looking at this stuff, you can't just go, oh, we got 84,000 that we can go spend. That's not the case. So it's still very much a cash flow exercise and watching our pennies until we start getting the monthly increases in, until we stop the rest of the expenses. I've been spending time with Kai trying to make sure that all of the contracts are canceled. You know, DirecTV at $700 a month. Yeah, this has been quite a grind, if you will. So we've got contracts. We still have the wedding annual cost that we still had to take care of, and Austin Bride and some of these other marketing things, Triple C that does our reservations and things like this. So those things, if they actually get canceled, and I'm on their tail all the time, show me that you canceled it, confirm that you canceled these things, so I'm not hit in the first quarter with, oh, they said it was canceled, but it really isn't canceled. Or the contracts, they said were ending at the end of the year, and maybe they didn't give enough notice. So these are the kinds of things I'm doing also, is trying to make sure that we're not going to be stuck with contracts that are ongoing that sort of sneak up on us. So, are we broke? No, we're not broke. It's all about choices and money. And you don't have a lot of choices if you don't have a lot of money. So we have to be very careful about where we're spending our money until we're sure that some of these things are behind us.
So did the latest main sheet say something about us having over $300,000?
It was $338,000 year-to-date profit.
Okay, profit's a lot different than cash.
Yeah, I know. It's also interesting that a nonprofit would report profits, but Mark Sturtz, 5104 Yacht Club Drive. I think the messages from the board on our financials are a little confusing and often contradictory. And for those of us who are not CPAs, I would appreciate some clarity. I brought up at the last meeting that at the candidate forum, you had said, we are not in a financial crisis, we are in a time of financial concern. At the last board meeting, Greg said we are in dire financial circumstances. And then Seth reported a $338,000 year-to-date profit. How does all that mesh? How does that, where's the logic in all that?
Well, first of all, you can have profit and not cash. We've been lending our cash to TYC. So when we talk about CLCA this context, in this board meeting, quite a bit of our cash went from the profits, went to TYC. You've heard comments about we're bleeding money, it's all going to TYC.
Yeah, that's the word out in the community. The word out in the community in a lot of cases is we're this far away from bankruptcy. And I think those are the kinds of messages that the board needs to clarify for us that are not CPAs exactly what our financial circumstances are. Are we on the verge of bankruptcy?
No, we're not on the verge of bankruptcy. We need to be very careful about making sure our loans are paid to the bank. That's hugely important. That our insurances are paid. That's very important. That our staff is paid. I mean, I've got priorities of how these things roll down. We have money to use as we feel we need to. So does that mean putting money into TYC any further? No, we made that decision. So as we make more decisions on cost cutting, on spending money on our infrastructure rather than getting new pool furniture or I don't know what else, we might think we can do or should do to make things more beautiful. I'd love to have a ton, $30,000 of new plants. Is that the smartest thing for us to do right now? No. Does that mean we're in financial crisis? No. Does it make it a little bit unpleasant to live here because it's not as beautiful as some other places? Yeah. We're not, at this point, in jeopardy of bankruptcy. As you can see here, looks like we're going to be coming out of it. But we do need to be diligent about where we're spending our money. And if something costs more than we think, we need to be able to pivot and use it where we need it. Maybe we don't get it done if something else happens that's unexpected, that's not in the budget.
But on your one point about the $338,000 profit, if that money is going to prop up TYC, how can it then be included in a profit or a surplus? That's an expense, correct?
No, that is not an expense on the CLCA. It's a loan to a sister company, and it is reported separately.
But that loan won't be paid back, right?
Well,
so it's bad debt.
Right, it will be bad debt in my opinion. Actually, I asked the CPAs just this week if I could get on a call with them so I can understand, since they've been our CPAs for 6-7 years, what was the thought, now that you see that that TLC or the LLCA owes us $1.6 million, and what happens when they never pay that back? How does that look on our books, meaning CLCA, tax return and audit, and how does that look on the LLC's books? That's a big concern for me. I mean, I want to know, how does that look? And I expect that it will be a big fat bad debt. How does that affect us in the future for our taxes for the CLCA? Those are a lot of questions I have, but I haven't been able to spend the time to start asking until this week. I said, when the budget's done, that's what I'm going to start doing, working on those kinds of things. Because
just historically, so you know, CLCA has been quote unquote lending money to TYC since its property was purchased. Okay. The Golden Company, who is our CPA accounting firm, has been doing our taxes and all of our accounting for way longer than 6 or 7 years. So I worked here 25 years. I spent 13 years on the board of various stints. They've been our accounting firm pretty much the entire time I've lived here, to my knowledge. So to help you out a little bit is it's a book entry in terms of the profit. It doesn't mean that money's in the bank. To your point, Andrea, you have $300,000 that's in our term, my term would be we underspent the budget by that much year to date. Doesn't mean the money stayed with us. To your point, some of it got transferred over to you.
what I don't fully understand yet, again, the reason why I made the call to CPAs is how are the two companies interrelated? Does CLCA actually own TLC? I don't know. And
Yes.
that was my understanding, but I really need to, I want to understand the mechanics of it.
The sole shareholder of the LLC is
CLCA.
CLCA.
So why is that not a compilated, consolidated tax return audit? What happens? Those are the questions that I have. And how does it affect
That's a
the
side
city?
conversation.
I don't have those answers necessarily yet, or the things are not reported together.
And just to add, you're asking for clarity, you essentially have a brand new board here for the last 6 months. And when we started the situation, we had no idea, really. We hadn't been involved in any of the financial decisions. We didn't know what the books looked like until they just showed, until we got here. And so it did look very dire. And had we not stopped the restaurant losses at $30,000 to $60,000 a month, we would have definitely inched closer to bankruptcy. I mean, that was something that was completely unsustainable. So for that beginning period, yeah, it looked really bad. And that's why that was the message that the board was giving to the community is this is really pretty dire. We're losing money at a rate that is completely unsustainable. We have to do something. And so we did. And now we're kind of exiting out of that, kind of almost panic stage to, okay, it still takes, time to figure out all that's going on. Andre has been amazing at digging into all those numbers and giving the board a sense of, okay, it's better than, a crisis. We're kind of coming out of it now. So we're in a transition period from what looked like really, really bad. We had to do something. We shut down the restaurant, stopped the losses, and now we're kind of coming out of it. So, again, last meeting, you and I, talked back and forth, and I don't think which word we use is terribly important, but it looked really bad, and we're slowly getting ourselves out of it and having a clearer picture of what our finances are. We didn't really know what that picture was when we just kind of stepped in and we're brand new board members. So now we're a lot more confident, especially with the work that Andre has done, as to what our financial situation is. And we have a good plan now. We have a good budget. We're going to be able to put money in reserves this coming year. We'll be able to do some expenditures on capital expenses for streets and walls and whatever those things are. So, it's getting better, and we're taking those actions that will make it better. So, hopefully that brings some clarity.
I have a question. When do we stop paying interest only? We start paying back the note.
Your name and address?
$30, 5103 Yacht Club.
Actually,
We're paying both.
we're paying our full mortgage payment. It's about just under $30,000 a month. So we do have, if you look on the budget here, there is a line item for interest only, which is calculated in your normal expenses, but near the bottom is where the principal payments are reflected. It's on the last page, right before the line that says net cash increase or decrease. That's the rest of the payment, which is not technically should be included in your expenses for a P&L, but I had to make sure that we had that covered cash-wise, and I put it down there in order to zero out the budget, which is standard industry practice. You wouldn't do that in a for-profit company, but for an association, it's standard to make your net income zero. And that's what determined how much I could spend on, well, not me, but what I felt we could spend on the expenses and the reserves, how much was going into each.
Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Name and address, please.
Again, Osler, 156 Liberty Lane. The personnel expenses, that includes all 11 people.
It's 8 people, and yes, 8. We have 8 employees.
Okay, 5 in maintenance and 3.
Yes, at the office. And there is some, I believe I used 3% increase on that. Some of these were, when I worked up the numbers, some of them I did add a factor. For example, the insurance. Kristen and I and Shelley attended a Zoom meeting, I guess, with HOA industry, and it was specifically related to insurance. And that was probably almost 2.5 months ago. They said that their experience was anywhere from 20 to 35% increase is what they were seeing. So I used, I believe, a factor of 25. I got our renewal 3 days ago, but I had already pushed this out, and it's like, just if we stay with the same company, it's at a 31% increase. So, yeah, I have reached out to a company who does over 1,800 HOA insurance packages, so it's being quoted for us, but at least we'll have at least 2. I think it'll show us what we can expect going forward, obviously. 3% increase on wages, I believe, and I can have this at the round table, how much increases I use for some of the other things.
Sure.
Yeah, most, if I had, for example, we did recently get the new health insurance cost for our employees. I did put that in there. So my final draft came out probably beginning of November, and as I got information, firmer costs, I did update this, and the last update I did was right before our workout session on Wednesday. So there were several iterations on my budget as I updated things.
There are some additional savings that will come as a result of the cancellation of the Kemper contract from an insurance standpoint, because there were some unique requirements in the contract for certain insurance, and those will no longer be required, so you should be able to reduce the amount of premium cost once they're out of here.
I'll be in touch with you then.
It'll only be for whatever is next year. They've already taken a lot of that through October, say.
I think we start talking
Get some money back.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll reach out to you
No problem.
regarding that.
Yes.
Outback here, 632 for Regis. What or how many, if any, events are planned for this coming year, 2024? And if there aren't any, who will manage those?
Are you talking about the ones
For the yacht club.
Are you talking about the ones that are?
External events?
Whatever.
Okay.
So for the 2024, for the events that have contracts with Kemper, there's 6 of them. Julie and I will be managing those. We'll be helping. We brought in an outside caterer. They'll probably be an outside liquor company. We're still working that out. But Julie and I are committed to making sure those go well. After that, if you're talking about if we're going to let the residents, rent it, or if we want to do our events committee will come in, they won't have to pay anything. We just have to make sure we have the place clean. So we'll be looking at that as well. We're just not ready to put that out just yet until everything was finalized.
So are we going to be actively marketing the place during, or events to, for income?
No. Not for new events that we have to manage.
This would be a resident.
We're not going to operate a business.
Yeah.
We can't be the operator of a business.
So we want to continue to look for other things, such as being a landlord, where we can rent this out to either an events place or a restaurant or some other thing that works here.
It should be an amenity for our residents. There should always be some component of this as an amenity for our residents. So we just have to drill down, as I'm here to say, and see what those costs would be, what the cleaning would be, the electricity, just to open it up for our residents so they can have their bridal showers and their,
you know, probably like, more like a bring your own food and alcohol situation. Yeah, but as a board, we haven't really been able to. The budget's been the main focus. Andrea's done a fantastic job with that. If we could bring some income in, of course, we'd love to. But we also don't want to gouge our residents. They've suffered enough. So.
Other budget questions?
Yeah. Steve, now, 152 Liberty. What's the first point of contact for issues, like maintenance issues or anything like that? I've been using Kristen Artano, is that still the first point?
Yes.
Please, call the front office, yeah.
For all the problems?
And if it requires board attention, that'll get forwarded.
Should bring it to, yeah, I got a tree that you don't have me to,
Okay.
What's your address again?
Pardon?
Can you tell me your address again?
152 Liberty.
I'm sorry, what's that point of contact on trees?
Oh, it's not trees, it's just, you should contact the front office, that is y'all's main point.
Okay.
Yeah, just call the main number.
I mean, if it needs to be
Kristen
forwarded
will
to
route
us,
things
it will
where
be
they need
forwarded
to
to
go.
us, but yeah, you really should be contacting the main office for issues. Any other questions?
I've got one. This is for Greg. At a previous meeting, you mentioned just considering in the future possibly a special assessment. So I'm very optimistic about our new budget. I think it looks great. So should that be off the radar screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
I feel like we're, you know, and we have, there's never been any serious discussion about
Right.
a special assessment
Right.
in the board meetings that we've ever, the working sessions that we've had. But considering how dire it looked just
Sure.
a couple of months ago,
Right.
Everything has to be on the table. Right now, with the budget that we have and knowing that we have some, you know, additional revenue from since last year, we have the increase. I think we're probably in pretty good shape to not
Yeah.
have to consider.
That sounds great. I think you all are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Any other
Yes, ma'am. Right here.
Carol Inman, 5806 Constellation Circle. Kind of like what a couple of these people are saying, things are looking better. So even on Town Square, or your next newsletter, I'm sure you'll put something, like he said, very plain and simple for everybody to read, because some of these conversations that are on Town Square, these people arguing and stuff, I mean, it's got to be plain and simple.
It's turned into the new next door.
Right. So anyway, I was plain and simple. So if you even
That's a
put
great
that out
idea.
before your next thing, just on Town Square, that this is where we're at, and maybe that'll stop some.
Any other budget questions? Sir.
Somewhat really, Russ Martin, 5601 Ranger. Given that we're canceling the contracts on TVs and we're not going to rent out the club anymore, at least in the distant future, isn't it time now to remove the blue signs from the front? Yeah, I mean, obviously, it says open to the public on there and all this stuff, which is not true.
Yeah.
And not to mention, that's a daily reminder of an amenity we used to have and kind of don't have anymore, so. From a
I
personal
think the
standpoint.
thoughts were waiting until Kemper leaves, because they were still booking business through December. They still are, they want
We're
to.
planning next year's budget.
But
Not
it's
that
coming
making
up.
blue signs down going to cost much money, but I think the time has come to do that. January 1st.
Yeah, well taken.
Thank you.
And then just lastly, items for the e-votes, I don't need them individually, but the A, Bs, and Cs, approximately how much is being expended for those projects?
The e-votes.
A number of.
You want approximate numbers,
Okay, so-
the groundwork and erosion, was that was something that you
I
did?
think-
Or wait, oh, that was the tennis court stuff.
175. I know for our tennis one, we didn't spend any money. Is it this one?
Yeah,
78,
C
and
is
this one
0 to
75?
us.
Okay.
Yeah, that was 70, the roofing
With 7,500.
78.
Yeah.
78 for the
78
roofing.
change, and the tennis
7,800.
committee is 75.
75.
Yeah, so about 15,000 together. Other budget questions? Good, excellent.
When are we going? Your name and your address.
Before you return, after when are we gonna be the resident able to go down to the club and socialize?
And socialize?
Yes.
Well, that's what
Very
we're
soon.
We're doing it right now.
But we're putting that plan
Super
together,
Bowl.
round table.
Super Bowl.
But that's not quite job one, but it's something that is very important to the board to make sure this is an amenity that our residents can use. So that's
It's not the
on the
drinking.
very short list of things we want to do with this.
It's not the drinking, it's the honestly
Sure.
socializing
Yeah,
and see
absolutely.
what we pay for.
Yeah, 100%. Very, very soon. We're going to get that as soon in the new year as we can do it. We'll do it.
Super Bowl's coming up.
Super Bowl.
Julie's all about the Super Bowl.
How do we do that without DirecTV?
We're gonna go Roku.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
We're working on streaming.
Yeah, direct.
That is the way.
We're gonna increase our internet.
Yeah. Other budget questions? Okay. Well, I'd like to move that we approve the 2024 budget. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second, say seconds. All in favor? Aye. Oh, unanimous, excellent. So we approve that. Now, the next agenda items, we added board members to B1 Bank. Jen, did you put that on there? We're currently taking people off of our bank for signatories, signing checks and stuff, and putting people on, so we're,
Yeah, we had new board members, and only 2 of us were on it, and other people needed access to it, so we just added one.
well, it was putting a burden on the 2 that were on were signatories, so now we'll have more board members that can actually go sign a check at the front office.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Seth and Andrea again. We've been recently kind of revamping the employee benefits and employee handbook. I'll let them explain kind of what the process has been and what we're planning on doing there.
I'll be making the motion at the end of this. I'm going to read this so I don't lose any details. This is directed to the board. As you recall, the board tasked me with performing an internal audit of the employees' accrued vacation hours. Several of us expressed concern over excessive number of hours on the books for most of our employees. During that audit, I discovered errors in some of the recent accruals on record and sought to make corrections to align accruals to the CLCA Employee Handbook dated January 2022 with regard to paid time off, which included vacation, sick, and PTO. Please note, the version of that handbook allowed for a rollover amount of 120 hours of vacation. By standards, this is considered very unusual, especially for a small company or workforce such as Chandlers. The corrections will be made completed by year end, and correct accrual amounts will be booked appropriately as a corporate liability on our balance sheet at year end, which, from what I can tell, that's about 10 on our balance sheet. Going forward, Seth and I recommended revision of the employee handbook as to streamline vacation, sick, and PTO into only PTO for each calendar year as follows. The new plan would be sick and vacation will be 0. Overall, effectively, 8 hours of sick is being eliminated, otherwise the hours remain the same in total for based on years of service. The new plan would be the length of service from 0 to 24 months will be 80 hours per year, or 2 weeks. From 24 months to 60 months of service, 120 hours per year, and if you've had service over 60 months, 160 hours per year of PTO. We also propose a change to the year-end rollover. This is where the big change will be, really. Our recommendation is to ramp down the rollover hours in the next 2 years. Specifically, PTO hours allotted in a given calendar year must be used by the end of that calendar year, with the exception of 1, maximum of 80 hours to be rolled over into 2025 from the 120, and then maximum of 40 hours may be rolled over into 2026, getting us back into alignment with kind of industry standard. All right. So that, is there any discussion? I guess you can ask that. Discussion.
Well, yeah, is there any discussion with the board? I mean, we've all seen the document that you read.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any discussion. We all had a chance to email back and forth. I don't know that there's a whole big discussion, but if there's any additional points anybody wants to make or questions they want to ask.
Well, obviously, this is news to a couple of our staff members. We have discussed it briefly. They're aware that there's going to be some changes. And if this is approved, then those changes will be made effective January 1st, 2024. So, if there's
No further discussion. I move that we adopt this policy that's been outlined in the document that Andrea just read to us. Do I have a second? Second. Rick seconds. All in favor? Aye. Yeah, that looks unanimous. Okay, that's done. And then we have Internal Revenue Code 277, and I think again this is a topic for Seth and Andrea. You guys are getting worked out today.
This is basically just general housekeeping. The CPAs have advised that we should adopt or elect this higher Internal Revenue Ruling 70604 election. I'll read it. This will be for both 2023 and 2024. I have two separate motions because of the years, but Association Resolution for Revenue Ruling 70-604 election. Excess income applied to the following year's assessments. Whereas the Chandlers Landing Community Association is a corporation duly organized and existing under the laws of the state of Texas. And whereas the members desire that the corporation shall act in full accordance with the rulings and regulations of the Internal Revenue Service. Now therefore, the members hereby adopt the following resolution by and on behalf of Chandlers Landing Community Association. Resolved that any excess of membership income over membership expenses for the year for the year ended 12/31/23 shall be applied against the subsequent tax year member assessments as provided by our IRS Revenue Ruling 70604. Basically, this says if we do have income, we can roll it over to the next year, and it helps with our tax reporting status and non-taxable.
And the votes okay? They're the ones that advised you on that?
Yes.
Okay.
They're the ones that sent this to.
Yes,
So
that's
we'll
their
include that
language.
for 2023 and 2024. I'd like to make a motion to elect this for both positions.
I would second that motion. All in favor of using the motion? We're declaring, we're electing to roll any revenue that exceeds our expenses into the next year to help us with taxes.
Which is tax. Yeah.
Right, so again, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous? All right, well now, I mean, I think we probably already had our owners forum and Q&A, but let's open that up for any other items that someone might want to talk
I
about.
have just one other item, Ship Emery 323 Harbor Landing. 209 Yacht Club replaced the apron on the driveway. It's the second time, and I'm not being nitpicky here, but it's a water quality issue. The concrete truck washed out into the curb, and it's all the way down to the inlet at the park. And once, as Rick knows, some of you know that this is in violation of city code. They were supposed to capture it on their property, and it looks bad. And so I would just respectfully request that they be notified and fined, or Chuck may have to clean it up. Unfortunately, now it's probably just a power wash thing, I'm guessing, but it needs to be cleaned up. It's not good. And then that's probably the big thing. The other question I have is with Spyglass 4, going along as far as it is, are you able to comment on when you anticipate them starting to pay dues on the vacant lots?
Well, I'm sorry? Seth says he can answer that.
Yeah, so basically, it was told me that from the lawyers that as soon as they have someone who has purchased that lot, the front office should have that information and we should be able to start collecting dues on that, on those particular lots from Spyglass Board. So,
As the transfer?
When the declarant sells a lot to an owner, I think is the exercise.
Their counties are going to be in what the city had approved previously. Is there groups of 4 or 6 units? So I'm not being argumentative.
No. Understood. Yeah, and
so to me, the property. I'm not the lawyer here, but the property has been transferred, and it could be no different than Andre, you own some vacant lots in here, and you got to pay a monthly fee on an assessment on those vacant lots. But I think I would just respectfully ask you to follow up for some clarity on that, because it seems to me they're at the point now, it looks like they're going to start advertising that type of thing.
It sure seems like we're pretty darn close, if not already. The reading of the legal opinions that I've done is that the declarant, which is the developer basically, has to transfer ownership of a lot, not just a parcel. They own a parcel. The individual lots are those townhomes, right? Even in groups of 6, they're still you're not going to sell all 6 to a single family kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? So, but I don't have a definitive answer.
At a time.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I don't have a definitive answer for you, so yes, thank you. We'll definitely be consulting with our attorneys. Because, hey, we want them to start paying.
Yes.
So.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the hard work you all put into the budget.
Yes, sir.
Pete Tyler, 9 at Record Circle. I was told by somebody that lives up in the condo up there, he talked to one of the construction people, and they weren't even going to plan on starting building till late this year, like 24. They did it 25, so they finally.
Spyglass 4?
Beg your pardon?
Spyglass 4?
The new one, yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about the new one, the new school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that true?
So, well, we don't know when they're going to start building necessarily. I mean, we've seen that they filed plans with the city, and there's elevations and all that. And I think, well, Jeff's not here anymore. I don't see Jeff, but I think our architectural committee has looked at those plans as well. So it would. There's Jeff. So Jeff may be able to help us in terms of what they reviewed, but. Jeff, the Spyglass 4, has your committee reviewed those elevations and plans and things for approval, or where are we with that, do you know?
Well, the last time I saw those was back in the summer, when the city council approved.
And they filed with the city?
The elevations, and of course the board was in major transition at that time. And I think Vince was actually president at that time, and I kind of brought it up, and it didn't really go anywhere. And dealing with a lot of things that were way more important to the board at the time. So we just let it go, and as far as the discussions about Spyglass that have happened since then, it's really been about whether or not they would be starting to pay dues. You know, once the lots got platted, I believe they are actually platted, and maybe they're for sale, maybe they're not. I'm not sure about that, but that's really about the only back and forth I've had about Spyglass 4.
Now, my understanding is that your committee would have to approve those designs, those facades, all the elevations?
They presented them to us.
Okay.
Yeah, but they haven't presented anything to us. I don't even know what the ongoing relationship is between the HOA, legally, if you want to call it, and them over there. If they even still think that they're in our HOA and they're required to pay dues, whether they think they're required to submit approvals of their plans, anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, as soon as we get our thing done with Spyglass 1 and 3, I think that's the next step for, the Spyglass, that area is for us to work with our attorneys to make sure that, are they required, when can we, ask them to start paying dues, et cetera, what are all those legal,
I think that's something we definitely need to pick up in
Yeah.
January and get on top of that.
Well, and we've been trying to save money on not sending stuff to lawyers because those guys are expensive. So now we're a little more confident that we have the cash flow and the budget to be able to use our lawyers a little bit more. So yeah.
The other piece which Jeff knows, for those of us that this started over 2 years ago with a developer, and so in order to get the city to approve the current design, if you will, they're relying on staying within the HOA because otherwise the city would require them to put in a pool and some other amenities that frankly they don't have the real estate to do over there. So now and then that developer sold the property to the people that have it now. So unless something's changed, they're going to need the pool and some other amenities in order to.
If they don't want to be in CLCA.
If they don't want to be in CLCA, then they would have to make.
They'll have to change their design. They'll have to cut a couple of condos out to put a pool in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say that those requirements are part of the ordinance. That was an actual ordinance that was voted on by the city council to allow what you see there now because that property was bound to the requirement that was totally different than what it's now.
Yes. Yeah, and every development in Rockwall has to be an HOA anyway, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else?
Any idea how long their permit's good for when they have their first initial permit?
For construction?
Construction, yeah. Because normally if they go dormant, it becomes an issue for them.
Yeah, I think they're in compliance with that piece of it. Typically what they still have to do is get the exterior facades and all that approved because the city has, as we all know, the city has requirements on exterior design, and then we have some in ours, in some cases trump theirs, and so that piece is probably the missing portion of it.
I would love to have some kind of direction from the board, that says, hey, we've established this relationship, and they know, that they're bound. Because I can't really approach anyone over there. I have the contact information, it's all general information, but I can't approach them, without knowing that they're actually aware of us and what, our responsibilities are, what our requirements are, what their requirements are.
We'll get you
Everything's up in there.
But yeah, and again, we're going to be working with the attorneys to make sure we know definitively what our next steps are, and you'll be involved in that.
Okay. That's good.
Yes, sir.
Jim Osborne, 156 Lily Lane. The homeowner association dues. Is it the plan to increase them every year? There are a lot of people in this community that are fixing them.
The plan is to increase dues when they need to be increased. There's no overall, hey, we're going to just raise the dues every year. In looking at the budget this year, considering the situation we kind of walked into earlier in the year, and all the money we were losing, and all the cash flow projections, and all the expenses, et cetera, it became pretty clear very early in the budgeting process that we needed to raise those dues to cover our expenses, to increase our reserves, to be able to spend money on the things that are falling down in this neighborhood, and there are some things that are falling down in the neighborhood that we own. So this year it was necessary. So 2024, it's up 10%. 2025, we don't know.
It's not a goal.
There's no set plan.
Well, let me, if you, say something. Prior to me putting my name in the hat for being appointed in June, I was very concerned about where this association was headed. And I created a 7-year rollout based on the budget at that time. It's a very abbreviated income, expenses by category, what have you. At that time, I don't recall, I gave it to a couple of the board members, and I made it, I created it in Excel as a what-if statement, a what-if type tool. And I would play with it for my own personal edification. I would put 3% in for expenses and, 10% for the next 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years, what have you. So now that we have a budget, now that I have a better understanding of what we should on a regular basis have, I've got inflation factors in there that I can plug in quickly, and I will be bringing that out in the first quarter for a rollout, and it also shows us where will our reserves be, where will our loans be. I will be, now that I've got more information, kind of fine-tuning that and playing with it, and I'm more than happy to share it at roundtables with the board, maybe not roundtables, just other kinds of community get-togethers, if you will. I would love to get input from folks that have a financial background or a business background to prove it for me. I'm always looking for another set of eyes to make sure I didn't miss something. So if anyone has any interest in that, maybe we can get together in January or February. I'll give you my file and you can do your own play around with it. I have no problem with that. So that is something that I will be looking at. Where are we if we raise dues this year and next year, and then from there on out we're only at a 3%? What if we do 3% from forever? Can we at some point maybe reduce the dues back to a 5%? So those are things that in Andre's perfect world we'll be able to have time to do and share.
Well, and I just want to say, one of my goals of getting on the board too is, one, have this beautiful amenity be used, but two, also is to prevent the dues from having to go up. Because I know when I first moved in here 10 years ago, Scott really told me, the dues haven't gone up in 10 years or whatever it was. And that was also part of the problem that started this where we're at today, is this was 10 years ago. So when I moved here 10 years ago, they started going up and they continue to go up. And, one of my goals of getting on the board was to see the situation and to see, do we really need to be raising dues to the level we are? And as Madison has put out there many times, how do we compare to other communities that do have dues, but do they have full security and tennis courts and full pool? How do we compare to other communities? And so, our goal isn't to raise dues. Our goal is to, make sure that we're utilizing what funds we have and where we're at today to be able to make the community grand again and not just, get by. And because we've been tackling on patch jobs for a long time, and we've done a lot of beautiful things as well. Like I know when Chip was on board, they put all new signs in all the new streets. Before, all those wooden signs, you could never find where you're going, couldn't see anything. So we've had improvements through our neighborhood over the, even in the 10 years that I've been here. I've seen a lot of improvements. The wall used to leak back here by the pool, so we've done a lot of things, but there's still a lot of things to complete. And by where we're at and having this little slight raise in dues, it seems like it's a lot, but in reality, it's going to really be able to benefit us as a community from not just this year, but for years to come. We're hoping this will give us a good kickstart for the next 10 years. Sure.
Also in that calculus, you have to factor in that we have a refinance package coming up in a few years that will most likely be double the interest rate we're paying now.
Hopefully it goes down.
But it's
Hopefully it does. Thank you very much.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, you say future, future, future. Can you consider the people who've been here for 20, 30, 40 years have put money in? And we got into a point we are on a fixed income. So what about our little future? Because right now we're already paying $2,700 a year. For the people who've been here, you newcomer, others newcomers, we have paid a lot. And it was not, especially the old people, this was not our future to purchase the building and get the contract and get all these expenses. It cannot be just young people. You have to consider the people who've been here many, many years and they are now on a fixed income.
Well, I understand that. In 10 years has been a lot. I know it's not.
Bring up, you want to socialize here. And if we did purchase the club,
no, I didn't.
It would have gone to development and it would have been
No, I did
condos.
not. But it was purchased. So now we paid for it. Let's use it.
Right.
That's
Well,
the only thing.
and
That's our goal.
we are obligated to represent everyone that lives here, including people on fixed incomes, including young families, including anybody that lives here. So absolutely, we have to consider all that, and we do. But that doesn't mean that we don't consider the future needs for those young families either. So we have to, we have to consider all the perspectives that are.
I do. I've been here 20 years. I hate it too. I hate it. I'd like to see this place make money so we can offset our dues. I love that. So that's our goal.
But every year, 20% or whatever, it's been going, 10 every year.
I know.
And how many longer?
And as we mentioned earlier, that's not the plan. That's just what needed to happen this year. And I can't speak, as Andrea said, to task boards. I just know that looking at our finances this year, that was a necessary
And I know
step.
I'm not the only one.
No, you're not. Plenty of people have told us that, so we get it. Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? Mark and then Jim.
Yeah, I just have a question on clarification on events for posting purposes. Lisa, you said that, I'm not remembering, but something to the effect of that that a budget was approved, but events are not being planned?
They didn't know they had a budget.
But they do now?
I gave them a little shout out in a text, but I said until the budget's approved, but be thinking about your calendar. Be thinking about what you want to host. Obviously, they're always going to do Easter for the kids, right? But now that we have can utilize the club, that just offsets a lot of things that they didn't have before.
Okay.
They didn't, because weddings and things were being planned down here. Now it's more about an amenity for us.
So it's more.
So they can have those key dates and things they want to do.
And with this
My
budget.
children-
And they have budget.
And they have funding.
And they do
There's
have.
budget in the budget.
We approved it today, so
And operational
I
expenses.
just didn't want to pull the cart before the horse, as you like to say.
And on that same note, with the roundtables, those are on a cadence of the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. Do I have that correct?
Well, we want to have one the Tuesday before the board meeting and then 2 weeks afterwards.
So does that work out?
Pretty much, I think it's second.
It falls into like the second and the fourth, but in January, that's not the case. It'd be like the third Tuesday and the fifth.
Right. So they would be the first one before the board meeting and then 2 weeks later. Would that be a safe bet?
Exactly.
And do you envision them going through, say, April at least?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can post that.
Hopefully it's an ongoing,
Okay.
we just keep doing them. As long as we're getting people to attend and we have topics of discussion that interest people, they'll come. So hopefully we
Yeah,
just
we
keep
need
doing
to
it.
have at least, we need probably at least 10 people, less than that, we can That's a meeting.
And that's 7 o'clock TYC.
7 o'clock Tuesday.
Thank you.
And last question.
Yeah, for Andrea. I believe this is true. While we're involved with Bank One, with the loan, I don't believe we can reduce our dues at all. Are you aware of that? Have you ever read that?
I don't think that's,
No, as far as like what our dues are this year, next year we could not reduce our dues as long as we're paying Bank One loan.
I'm sorry, go back to something. I think we can't reduce them below the rate that they were at when we got the loan.
Oh, really?
We can't go back below that. Yeah, I think that's.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the stipulation.
Okay, I'll have to look into it. Thank you.
Answer that we need to clarify and confirm.
Yeah, okay, that's my reading of it.
Sounds good.
I would agree with the same thing, so it was whatever they were at.
The language is you can't reduce the dues without their
Approval.
express approval.
Right, and I'm sure we would have to justify that we could make and cover our expenses,
Right.
so.
Yeah, that's
good.
They just want us to pay the loan back.
I'm sure we're gonna have to justify, it. Inflation goes up, so they're not gonna allow us to keep those dues perpetually fixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I second.
Yeah.